It's December 7th, 1941, 5:30 in the morning. 230 miles north of Oahu, 6 Japanese carriers turn into the wind, warming their engines. In roughly 30 minutes, a first wave of 183 fighters and bombers will be airborne, heading directly south toward Pearl Harbor. But 215 miles west of the island, there's a massive geographic anomaly. The USS Gerald R has been at sea since late November, delayed by rough weather on a routine return trip from Wake Island. She carries 2 nuclear reactors, roughly 75 aircraft, and a radar system that can see for over 200 miles. Her crew is operating under 1941 peacetime protocols, with no special briefing or knowledge of the coming attack. 2 radically different eras of military technology are now sharing the exact same stretch of the Pacific, blind to each other, counting down to one of the deadliest mornings in American history. This diagram shows the radar coverage of the Ford's E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft. Already airborne on routine patrol, its sensors sweep 300 miles in every direction. It instantly identifies the entire Kido Butai, 6 carriers, battleships, and cruisers, sitting 200 miles to the northeast. Historically, an Army radar operator at Opana Point spotted the incoming Japanese formation and reported it, only to be told by a duty officer not to worry about it. The United States didn't shoot first based on a single radar screen. The Ford's commanding officer faces that same problem. He has an unidentified, heavily armed fleet on his screen, but no authorization to fire on targets that haven't attacked anyone. However, at 6 a.m., 183 aircraft launch and head directly toward Pearl Harbor. This crosses the threshold of an imminent threat, giving any commander the authority to defend his ship and his base. The Ford goes to general quarters and launches her combat air patrol. The historical timeline fractures the moment the Ford's commander decides to treat the incoming planes as an active threat. The Japanese first wave takes off at 6 a.m., climbing to 10,000 feet. They are navigating entirely by compass and a commercial radio signal from Honolulu. They have no radar, no missile approach warning, and no idea the Ford exists. The Ford counters with F-18 Super Hornets, vectored precisely to the target by the Hawkeye. They are armed with AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles. This graphic illustrates the distance gap. The Super Hornet can fire an AMRAAM from 100 miles away. A 1941 Zero pilot must see his target through a gun sight to engage, a distance thousands of times shorter than the missile's reach. Because the 1941 planes lack any electronic warning systems, the Japanese pilots have no way to detect incoming fire, nor do they possess flares or chaff to confuse a modern radar-guided missile. The formation begins to fall apart before the pilots can even visually identify what is shooting at them. They are being systematically destroyed by an enemy they physically cannot perceive. On the Japanese carriers, Admiral Chuichi Nagumo waits for a status report. None comes. At 7:05 a.m., he launches the second wave of 167 aircraft, simply because he has no information telling him to stop. Japan's naval radar program had barely started in December 1941. The Kido Butai relies entirely on visual lookouts and floatplane scouts, meaning Nagumo is effectively blind to anything happening 200 miles away. Without instantaneous communication to warn them that the first wave has been silenced, the second strike formation flies south into the same invisible trap. With both strike waves gone, the Ford's commander transitions to a counterattack. The E-2D has been tracking every Japanese ship since before sunrise. He sends in F-35C stealth fighters at 30,000 feet. At supersonic speeds, these aircraft are invisible and inaudible to human lookouts with binoculars until well after they have fired. Meanwhile, an EA-18G Growler uses its pods to jam Japanese radio communications, cutting off coordination between the ships and their 18-plane defensive fighter screen before the strike even begins. This diagram shows the Harpoon missile. Carrying a 488-pound warhead, it skims 5 to 10 meters above the ocean. Earth's curvature and waves hide the sea-skimming trajectory, making the Akagi's manually aimed guns useless. Gunners cannot see the 540-mile-per-hour missile until seconds before impact. The Ford's Super Hornets carry enough harpoons and LRASMs to target all 6 carriers in a single synchronized wave. The engagement takes place entirely outside the maximum range of any Japanese weapon, allowing one side to fire while the other is unable to shoot back. By early afternoon on December 7, 1941, the Kido Butai is gone. The skies over the Pacific are silent. At Pearl Harbor, the damage is non-existent. The USS Arizona never burns, and the USS Oklahoma remains upright at its mooring. This intervention prevents a specific tragedy. The 2,403 Americans scheduled to die that morning are alive. The presence of the Ford halts the conflict before the first bomb can be dropped. By utilizing an 80-year technological advantage to destroy the Japanese offensive fleet in a single morning, A single modern vessel stops the Pacific War before lunch.